1 Samuel, chapter 1. Now there was a man from Ramathaim-Zophim, from the hill country of Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. And he had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Now this man would go up from his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of armies in Shiloh. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests to the Lord there. When the day came that Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portions to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he would give a double portion, because he loved Hannah, but the Lord had closed her womb. Her rival, moreover, would provoke her bitterly to irritate her, because the Lord had closed her womb. And it happened year after year, as often as she went up to the house of the Lord, that she would provoke her. So she wept and would not eat. Then Elkanah, her husband, would say to her, "Hannah, why do you weep? And why do you not eat? And why is your heart sad? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? Then Hannah got up after eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the seat by the doorpost of the temple of the Lord. She, greatly distressed, prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. And she made a vow and said, "Lord of armies, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your bondservant, and remember me, and not forget your bondservant, but will give your bondservant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and a razor shall never come on his head." Now it came about, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli was watching her mouth. As for Hannah, she was speaking in her heart, only her lips were quivering, but her voice was not heard. So Eli thought she was drunk. Then Eli said to her, "How long will you behave like a drunk? Get rid of your wine." But Hannah answered and said, "No, my lord. I am a woman despairing in spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have poured out my soul before the Lord. Do not consider your bondservant a useless woman, for I have spoken until now out of my great concern and provocation." Then Eli answered and said, "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant your request that you have asked of him." She said, "Let your bondservant find favor in your sight." So the woman went on her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. Then they got up early in the morning and worshipped before the Lord, and returned again to their house in Ramah. And Elkanah had relations with Hannah, his wife, and the Lord remembered her. It came about in due time, after Hannah had conceived, that she gave birth to a son, and she named him Samuel, saying, "Because I have asked for him of the Lord." Then the man Elkanah went up with all his household to offer to the Lord the yearly sacrifice and to pay his vow. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, "I will not go until the child is weaned. Then I will bring him, so that he may appear before the Lord and stay there for life." Elkanah, her husband, said to her, "Do what seems best to you. Stay until you have weaned him, only may the Lord confirm his word." So the woman stayed and nursed her son until she weaned him. Now when she had weaned him, she took him up with her with a 3-year-old bull, 1 ephah of flour, and a jug of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord in Shiloh, although the child was young. Then they slaughtered the bull, and brought the boy to Eli. And she said, "Pardon me, my lord. As your soul lives, my lord, I am the woman who stood here beside you, praying to the Lord. For this boy I prayed." And the Lord has granted me my request, which I asked of him. So I have also dedicated him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is dedicated to the Lord. And he worshipped the Lord there. Chapter 2. Then Hannah prayed and said, My heart rejoices in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth speaks boldly against my enemies, because I rejoice in your salvation. There is no one holy like the Lord. Indeed, there is no one besides you, nor is there any rock like our God. Do not go on boasting so very proudly. Do not let arrogance come out of your mouth. For the Lord is a God of knowledge, and with him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty are broken to pieces, but those who have stumbled strap on strength. Those who were full hire themselves out for bread, but those who were hungry cease to be hungry. Even the infertile woman gives birth to 7, but she who has many children languishes. The Lord puts to death and makes alive. He brings down to Sheol and brings up. The Lord makes poor and rich. He humbles. He also exalts. He raises the poor from the dust. He lifts the needy from the garbage heap to seat them with nobles. And he gives them a seat of honor as an inheritance. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he set the world on them. He watches over the feet of his godly ones. But the wicked ones are silenced in darkness. For not by might shall a person prevail. Those who contend with the Lord will be terrified. Against them he will thunder in the heavens. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. And he will give strength to his king, and will exalt the horn of his anointed. Then Elkanah went to his home at Ramah, but the boy continued to attend to the service of the Lord before Eli the priest. Now the sons of Eli were useless men. They did not know the Lord. And this was the custom of the priests with the people. When anyone was offering a sacrifice, the priest's servant would come while the meat was cooking with a 3-pronged fork in his hand, and he would thrust it into the pan, or kettle, or cauldron, or pot. Everything that the fork brought up, the priest would take for himself. They did so in Shiloh to all the Israelites who came there. Also, before they burned the fat, the priest's servant would come and say to the man who was sacrificing, Give the priest meat for roasting, as he will not take cooked meat from you, only raw. And if the man said to him, They must burn the fat first, then take as much as you desire, then he would say, No, but you must give it to me now, and if not, I am taking it by force. And so the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord, for the men treated the offering of the Lord disrespectfully. Now Samuel was ministering before the Lord as a boy wearing a linen ephod. And his mother would make for him a little robe and bring it up to him from year to year, when she would come up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice. Then Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife and say, May the Lord give you children from this woman in place of the one she requested of the Lord. And they went to their own home. The Lord indeed visited Hannah, and she conceived and gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the boy Samuel grew up before the Lord. Now Eli was very old, and he heard about everything that his sons were doing to all Israel, and that they slept with the women who served at the doorway of the tent of meeting. So he said to them, Why are you doing such things as these, the evil things that I hear from all these people? No, my sons, for the report is not good which I hear the Lord's people circulating. If one person sins against another, God will mediate for him. But if a person sins against the Lord, who can intercede for him?" But they would not listen to the voice of their father, for the Lord desired to put them to death. Now the boy Samuel was continuing to grow and to be in favor both with the Lord and with people. Then a man of God came to Eli and said to him, "This is what the Lord says. Did I not indeed reveal myself to the house of your father when they were in Egypt in bondage to Pharaoh's house? Did I not choose them from all the tribes of Israel to be my priests, to go up to my altar, to burn incense, to carry an ephod before me? And did I not give to the house of your father all the fire offerings of the sons of Israel? Why are you showing contempt for my sacrifice and my offering, which I have commanded for my dwelling? And why are you honoring your sons above me, by making yourselves fat with the choicest of every offering of my people Israel? Therefore the Lord God of Israel declares, I did indeed say that your house and the house of your father was to walk before me forever. But now the Lord declares, Far be it from me. For those who honor me I will honor, and those who despise me will be insignificant. Behold, the days are coming when I will eliminate your strength and the strength of your father's house, so that there will not be an old man in your house. And you will look at the distress of my dwelling in spite of all the good that I do for Israel. And there will never be an old man in your house. Yet I will not cut off every man of yours from my altar, so that your eyes will fail from weeping, and your soul grieve, and all the increase of your house will die in the prime of life. And this will be the sign to you which will come in regard to your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas. On the same day both of them will die. But I will raise up for myself a faithful priest, who will do according to what is in my heart and my soul. And I will build him an enduring house, and he will walk before my anointed always. And everyone who is left in your house will come to bow down to him for a silver coin or a loaf of bread, and say, Please assign me to one of the priest's offices so that I may eat a piece of bread. Chapter 3. Now the boy Samuel was attending to the service of the Lord before Eli, and word from the Lord was rare in those days. Visions were infrequent. But it happened at that time, as Eli was lying down in his place. Now his eyesight had begun to be poor, and he could not see well, and the lamp of God had not yet gone out. And Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was, that the Lord called Samuel. And he said, Here I am. Then he ran to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called me. But he said, I did not call. Go back and lie down. So he went and lay down. And the Lord called yet again, Samuel. So Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called me. But he said, I did not call, my son. Go back and lie down. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, nor had the word of the Lord yet been revealed to him. So the Lord called Samuel again for the third time. And he got up and went to Eli and said, Here I am, for you called me. Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. And Eli said to Samuel, Go lie down, and it shall be, if he calls you, that you shall say, Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. Then the Lord came and stood, and called as at the other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel said, Speak, for your servant is listening. Then the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I am going to do a thing in Israel, and both ears of everyone who hears about it will ring. On that day I will carry out against Eli everything that I have spoken in regard to his house, from beginning to end. For I have told him that I am going to judge his house forever for the wrongdoing that he knew, because his sons were bringing a curse on themselves, and he did not rebuke them. Therefore I have sworn to the house of Eli that the wrongdoing of Eli's house shall never be atoned for by sacrifice or offering. So Samuel lay down until morning. Then he opened the doors of the house of the Lord. But Samuel was afraid to tell the vision to Eli. Then Eli called Samuel and said, "Samuel, my son." And he said, "Here I am." He said, "What is the word that he spoke to you? Please do not hide it from me. May God do the same to you, and more so, if you hide a single word from me of all the words that he spoke to you." So Samuel told him everything, and hid nothing from him. And he said, "He is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him." Now Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and he let none of his words fail. And all Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, knew that Samuel was confirmed as a prophet of the Lord. And the Lord appeared again at Shiloh, because the Lord revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh by the word of the Lord. Chapter 4. So the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out to meet the Philistines in battle, and they camped beside Ebenezer, while the Philistines camped in Aphek. Then the Philistines drew up in battle formation to meet Israel. When the battle spread, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men on the battlefield. When the people came into the camp, the elders of Israel said, "Why has the Lord defeated us today before the Philistines? Let's take the ark of the covenant of the Lord from Shiloh, so that he may come among us and save us from the power of our enemies." So the people sent men to Shiloh, and from there they carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord of armies, who is enthroned above the cherubim, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. And as the ark of the covenant of the Lord was coming into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth resounded. And when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, "What does the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews mean?" Then they understood that the ark of the Lord had come into the camp. So the Philistines were afraid, for they said, "God has come into the camp." And they said, "Woe to us! For nothing like this has happened before. Woe to us! Who will save us from the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with all kinds of plagues in the wilderness. Take courage and be men, Philistines, or you will become slaves to the Hebrews, as they have been slaves to you. So be men and fight." So the Philistines fought, and Israel was defeated, and every man fled to his tent, and the defeat was very great, for 30,000 foot soldiers of Israel fell. Moreover, the ark of God was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died. Now a man of Benjamin ran from the battle line and came to Shiloh the same day, with his clothes torn and dust on his head. When he came, behold, Eli was sitting on his seat by the road keeping watch, because his heart was anxious about the ark of God. And the man came to give a report in the city, and all the city cried out. When Eli heard the noise of the outcry, he said, "What does the noise of this commotion mean?" Then the man came hurriedly and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were fixed, and he could not see. The man said to Eli, "I am the one who came from the battle line. Indeed, I escaped from the battle line today." And he said, "How are things, my son?" Then the one who brought the news replied, "Israel has fled before the Philistines, and there has also been a great defeat among the people. And your 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are also dead. And the ark of God has been taken." When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell off the seat backward beside the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died, for he was old and heavy. And so he judged Israel for 40 years. Now his daughter-in-law, Phinehas' wife, was pregnant and about to give birth. And when she heard the news that the ark of God had been taken and that her father-in-law and her husband had died, she kneeled down and gave birth, because her pains came upon her. And about the time of her death, the women who were standing by her said to her, "Do not be afraid, for you have given birth to a son." But she did not answer or pay attention, and she named the boy Ichabod, saying, "The glory has departed from Israel, because the ark of God had been taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband." So she said, "The glory has departed from Israel, because the ark of God has been taken." Chapter 5. Now the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. Then the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it into the house of Dagon, and placed it beside Dagon. When the Ashdodites got up early the next day, behold, Dagon had fallen on his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. So they took Dagon and set him back in his place. But when they got up early the next morning, behold, Dagon had fallen on his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both palms of his hands were cut off on the threshold. Only the torso of Dagon was left. For that reason, neither the priests of Dagon nor any who enter Dagon's house step on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this day. Now the hand of the Lord was heavy on the Ashdodites, and he made them feel devastated and struck them with tumors, both Ashdod and its territories. When the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, "The ark of the God of Israel must not remain with us, because his hand is severe on us and on Dagon our God." So they sent word and gathered all the governors of the Philistines to them, and said, "What shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel?" And they said, "Have the ark of the God of Israel brought to Gath." So they took the ark of the God of Israel away. After they had taken it away, the hand of the Lord was against the city, creating a very great panic. And he struck the people of the city, from the young to the old, so that tumors broke out on them. So they sent the ark of God to Ekron. And as the ark of God came to Ekron, the Ekronites cried out, saying, "They have brought the ark of the God of Israel to us, to kill us and our people." Therefore they sent word and gathered all the governors of the Philistines, and said, "Send away the ark of the God of Israel, and let it return to its own place, so that it will not kill us and our people." For there was a deadly panic throughout the city. The hand of God was very heavy there. And the people who did not die were struck with tumors, and the outcry of the city went up to heaven. Chapter 6. Now the ark of the Lord had been in the territory of the Philistines for 7 months. And the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners, saying, "What are we to do with the ark of the Lord? Tell us how we may send it to its place." And they said, "If you are going to send the ark of the God of Israel away, do not send it empty. But you shall certainly return to him a guilt offering. Then you will be healed, and it will be revealed to you why his hand does not leave you." Then they said, what is to be the guilt offering that we shall return to him? And they said, 5 gold tumors and 5 gold mice, corresponding to the number of the governors of the Philistines, since one plague was on all of you and on your governors. So you shall make likenesses of your tumors and likenesses of your mice that are ruining the land, and you shall give glory to the God of Israel. Perhaps he will lighten his hand from you, your gods, and your land. Why then do you harden your hearts, as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened their hearts? When he had severely dealt with them, did they not let the people go, and they left? Now then, take and prepare a new cart and 2 milk cows, on which there has never been a yoke, and hitch the cows to the cart, and take their calves back home away from them. Then take the ark of the Lord and place it on the cart, and put the articles of gold which you return to him as a guilt offering in a saddlebag by its side. Then send it away, that it may go. But watch, if it goes up by the way of its own territory to Beth-Shemesh, then he has done this great evil to us. But if not, then we will know that it was not his hand that struck us. It happened to us by chance. Then the men did so. They took 2 milk cows and hitched them to the cart, and shut in their calves at home. And they put the ark of the Lord on the cart, and the saddlebag with the gold mice and the likenesses of their tumors. Now the cows went straight in the direction of Beth-Shemesh. They went on the same road, bellowing as they went, and did not turn off to the right or to the left. And the governors of the Philistines followed them to the border of Beth-Shemesh. Now the people of Beth-Shemesh were gathering in their wheat harvest in the valley. And they raised their eyes and saw the ark, and rejoiced at seeing it. And the cart came into the field of Joshua the Beth-Shemite, and stopped there, where there was a large stone. And they split the wood of the cart, and offered the cows as a burnt offering to the Lord. And the Levites took down the ark of the Lord and the saddlebag that was with it, in which were the articles of gold, and put them on the large stone. And the men of Beth-Shemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrificed sacrifices that day to the Lord. When the 5 governors of the Philistines saw it, they returned to Ekron that day. Now these are the gold tumors which the Philistines returned as a guilt offering to the Lord: 1 for Ashdod, 1 for Gaza, 1 for Ashkelon, 1 for Gath, and 1 for Ekron. And the gold mice corresponding to the number of all the cities of the Philistines, belonging to the 5 governors, both of fortified cities and of country villages. The large stone in which they placed the ark of the Lord is a witness to this day in the field of Joshua the Beth-Shemite. Now he fatally struck some of the men of Beth-Shemesh, because they had looked into the ark of the Lord. He struck 50,070 men among the people, and the people mourned because the Lord had struck the people with a great slaughter. And the men of Beth-Shemesh said, "Who is able to stand before the Lord, this holy God? And to whom will he go up from us?" So they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kiriath-Jearim, saying, "The Philistines have brought back the ark of the Lord. Come down and take it up to yourselves." Chapter 7. And the men of Kiriath-Jearim came and took the ark of the Lord, and brought it into the house of Abinadab, on the hill, and they consecrated his son Eleazar to watch over the ark of the Lord. From the day that the ark remained at Kiriath-Jearim, the time was long, for it was 20 years, and all the house of Israel mourned after the Lord. Then Samuel spoke to all the house of Israel, saying, "If you are returning to the Lord with all your heart, then remove the foreign gods and the Ashtaroth from among you, and direct your hearts to the Lord, and serve him alone. And he will save you from the hand of the Philistines. So the sons of Israel removed the Baals and the Ashtaroth, and served the Lord alone. Then Samuel said, "Gather all Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray to the Lord for you." So they gathered to Mizpah and drew water and poured it out before the Lord, and fasted on that day and said there, "We have sinned against the Lord." And Samuel judged the sons of Israel at Mizpah. Now when the Philistines heard that the sons of Israel had gathered at Mizpah, the governors of the Philistines went up against Israel. And when the sons of Israel heard about it, they were afraid of the Philistines. So the sons of Israel said to Samuel, "Do not stop crying out to the Lord our God for us, that he will save us from the hand of the Philistines." Samuel took a nursing lamb and offered it as a whole burnt offering to the Lord. And Samuel cried out to the Lord for Israel, and the Lord answered him. Now Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, and the Philistines advanced to battle Israel. But the Lord thundered with a great thunder on that day against the Philistines, and confused them, so that they were struck down before Israel. And the men of Israel came out of Mizpah, and pursued the Philistines, and killed them as far as below Bethkar. Then Samuel took a stone, and placed it between Mizpah and Shen, and named it Ebenezer, saying, "So far the Lord has helped us." So the Philistines were subdued, and they did not come any more within the border of Israel. And the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. The cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel were restored to Israel, from Ekron even to Gath. And Israel recovered their territory from the hand of the Philistines. So there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. Now Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life, and he used to go annually on a circuit to Bethel, Gilgal, and Mizpah, and he judged Israel in all these places. Then he would make his return to Ramah, because his house was there, and there he also judged Israel. And there he built an altar to the Lord. Chapter 8. Now it came about, when Samuel was old, that he appointed his sons as judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second Abijah. They were judging in Beersheba. His sons, however, did not walk in his ways, but turned aside after dishonest gain, and they took bribes and perverted justice. Then all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah, and they said to him, "Behold, you have grown old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint us a king to judge us like all the nations." But the matter was displeasing in the sight of Samuel, when they said, "Give us a king to judge us." And Samuel prayed to the Lord, and the Lord said to Samuel, "Listen to the voice of the people regarding all that they say to you, because they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from being king over them, like all the deeds which they have done, since the day that I brought them up from Egypt, even to this day, in that they have abandoned me and served other gods. So they are doing to you as well. Now then, listen to their voice. However, you shall warn them strongly and tell them of the practice of the king who will reign over them." So Samuel spoke all the words of the Lord to the people who had asked him for a king. And he said, "This will be the practice of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and put them in his chariots for himself and among his horsemen, and they will run before his chariots. He will appoint for himself commanders of thousands and commanders of 50s, and some to do his plowing and to gather in his harvest, and to make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will also take your daughters and use them as perfumers, cooks, and bakers. He will take the best of your fields, your vineyards, and your olive groves, and give them to his servants. And he will take 1/10 of your seed and your vineyards, and give it to his high officials and his servants. He will also take your male servants and your female servants, and your best young men and your donkeys, and use them for his work. He will take 1/10 of your flocks, and you yourselves will become his servants. Then you will cry out on that day because of your king, whom you have chosen for yourselves, but the Lord will not answer you on that day. Yet the people refused to listen to the voice of Samuel, and they said, "No, but there shall be a king over us, so that we also may be like all the nations, and our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles." Now after Samuel had heard all the words of the people, he repeated them in the Lord's hearing. And the Lord said to Samuel, "Listen to their voice, and appoint a king for them." So Samuel said to the men of Israel, "Go, every man to his city." Chapter 9. Now there was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, son of Zeror, son of Bechorath, son of Aphiah, son of a Benjaminite, a valiant mighty man. He had a son whose name was Saul, a young and handsome man, and there was not a more handsome man than he among the sons of Israel. From his shoulders and up he was taller than any of the people. Now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, had wandered off. So Kish said to his son Saul, "Now take with you one of the servants, and arise, go search for the donkeys." So he passed through the hill country of Ephraim, and passed through the land of Shalisha, but they did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Shaalim, but they were not there. Then he passed through the land of the Benjaminites, but they did not find them. When they came to the land of Zuph, Saul said to his servant who was with him, "Come, and let's return, or else my father will stop being concerned about the donkeys and will become anxious about us." But he said to him, "Behold now, there is a man of God in this city, and the man is held in honor. Everything that he says definitely comes true. Now let's go there. Perhaps he can tell us about our journey on which we have set out." Then Saul said to his servant, "But look, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread is gone from our sacks, and there is no gift to bring to the man of God. What do we have?" The servant answered Saul again and said, "Look, I have in my hand 1/4 of a shekel of silver. I will give it to the man of God, and he will tell us our way." Previously in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, he used to say, "Come, and let's go to the seer." For he who is called a prophet now was previously called a seer. Then Saul said to his servant, "Good idea. Come, let's go." So they went to the city where the man of God was. As they went up the slope to the city, they found young women going out to draw water, and they said to them, "Is the seer here?" They answered them and said, "He is. See, he is ahead of you. Hurry now, for he has come into the city today, because the people have a sacrifice on the high place today. As soon as you enter the city, you will find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. For the people will not eat until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Now then, go up, for you will find him about this time." So they went up to the city. As they came into the city, behold, Samuel was coming out toward them to go up to the high place. Now a day before Saul's coming, the Lord had revealed this to Samuel, saying, "About this time tomorrow I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him as ruler over my people Israel, and he will save my people from the hand of the Philistines. For I have considered my people, because their outcry has come to me." When Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said to him, Behold, the man of whom I spoke to you. This one shall rule over my people." Then Saul approached Samuel at the gateway and said, "Please tell me where the seer's house is." And Samuel answered Saul and said, "I am the seer. Go up ahead of me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today, and in the morning I will let you go and will tell you everything that is on your mind. And as for your donkeys that wandered off 3 days ago, do not be concerned about them, for they have been found. And for whom is everything that is desirable in Israel? Is it not for you and for all your father's household?" Saul replied, "Am I not a Benjaminite, of the smallest of the tribes of Israel, and my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin? Why then have you spoken to me in this way?" Then Samuel took Saul and his servant, and brought them into the hall, and gave them a place at the head of those who were invited, who were about 30 men. And Samuel said to the cook, "Serve the portion that I gave you, about which I said to you, set it aside." Then the cook took up the leg with what was on it and placed it before Saul. And Samuel said, "Here is what has been reserved. Place it before you and eat, because it has been kept for you until the appointed time, since I said I have invited the people." So Saul ate with Samuel that day. When they came down from the high place into the city, Samuel spoke with Saul on the roof. And they got up early, and at daybreak Samuel called to Saul on the roof, saying, "Get up, so that I may send you on your way." So Saul got up, and both he and Samuel went out into the street. As they were going down to the edge of the city, Samuel said to Saul, "Speak to the servant and have him go on ahead of us and pass by. But you stand here now, so that I may proclaim the word of God to you." Chapter 10. Then Samuel took the flask of oil, poured it on Saul's head, kissed him, and said, "Has the Lord not anointed you as ruler over his inheritance? When you leave me today, then you will find 2 men close to Rachel's tomb in the territory of Benjamin at Zelzah. And they will say to you, 'The donkeys which you went to look for have been found. Now behold, your father has stopped talking about the donkeys and is anxious about you, saying, What am I to do about my son?' Then you will go on further from there, and you will come as far as the oak of Tabor. And there 3 men going up to God at Bethel will meet you, one carrying 3 young goats, another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a jug of wine. And they will greet you and give you 2 loaves of bread, which you will accept from their hand. Afterward you will come to the hill of God, where the Philistine garrison is. And it shall be as soon as you have come there to the city, that you will meet a group of prophets, coming down from the high place, with harp, tambourine, flute, and a lyre in front of them. And they will be prophesying. Then the Spirit of the Lord will rush upon you, and you will prophesy with them, and be changed into a different man. And it shall be, when these signs come to you, do for yourself what the occasion requires, because God is with you. And you shall go down ahead of me to Gilgal. And behold, I will be coming down to you to offer burnt offerings and sacrifice peace offerings. You shall wait 7 days until I come to you and inform you of what you should do." Then it happened, when he turned his back to leave Samuel, that God changed his heart. And all those signs came about on that day. When they came there to the hill, behold, a group of prophets met him, and the Spirit of God rushed upon him, so that he prophesied among them. And it came about, when all who previously knew him saw that he was indeed prophesying with the prophets, that the people said to one another, "What is this that has happened to the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets?" And a man from there responded and said, And who is their father? Therefore it became a saying, Is Saul also among the prophets? When he had finished prophesying, he came to the high place. Now Saul's uncle said to him and his servant, Where did you go? And he said, To look for the donkeys. When we saw that they were nowhere to be found, we went to Samuel. Saul's uncle said, Please tell me what Samuel said to you. So Saul said to his uncle, He told us plainly that the donkeys have been found. But he did not tell him about the matter of the kingdom which Samuel had mentioned. Now Samuel called the people together to the Lord at Mizpah, and he said to the sons of Israel, This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought Israel up from Egypt, and I rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the power of all the kingdoms that were oppressing you. But today you have rejected your God, who saves you from all your catastrophes and your distresses. Yet you have said, No, but put a king over us. Now then, present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and by your groups of thousands. So Samuel brought all the tribes of Israel forward, and the tribe of Benjamin was selected by lot. Then he brought the tribe of Benjamin forward by its families, and the Matrite family was selected by lot. And Saul, the son of Kish, was selected by lot. But when they looked for him, he could not be found. Therefore they inquired further of the Lord, Has the man come here yet? And the Lord said, Behold, he is hiding himself among the baggage. So they ran and took him from there, and when he stood among the people, he was taller than any of the people from his shoulders upward. Samuel said to all the people, Do you see him, whom the Lord has chosen? Surely there is no one like him among all the people. So all the people shouted and said, Long live the king! Then Samuel told the people the ordinances of the kingdom, and wrote them in the book, and placed it before the Lord. And Samuel sent all the people away, each one to his house. Saul also went to his house in Gibeah, and the valiant men whose hearts God had touched went with him. But certain useless men said, How can this one save us? And they despised him, and did not bring him a gift. But he kept silent about it. Chapter 11. Now Nahash the Ammonite went up and besieged Jabesh-Gilead, and all the men of Jabesh said to Nahash, Make a covenant with us, and we will serve you. But Nahash the Ammonite said to them, I will make it with you on this condition, that I will gouge out the right eye of every one of you, and thereby I will inflict a disgrace on all Israel. So the elders of Jabesh said to him, Allow us 7 days to send messengers throughout the territory of Israel. Then if there is no one to save us, we will come out to you. Then the messengers came to Gibeah of Saul, and spoke these words in the hearing of the people, and all the people raised their voices and wept. Now behold, Saul was coming from the field behind the oxen, and Saul said, What is the matter with the people that they weep? So they reported to him the words of the men of Jabesh. Then the Spirit of God rushed upon Saul when he heard these words, and he became very angry. He then took a yoke of oxen and cut them in pieces, and sent them throughout the territory of Israel by the hand of messengers, saying, Whoever does not come out after Saul and after Samuel, the same shall be done to his oxen. Then the dread of the Lord fell on the people, and they came out as one person. He counted them in Bezek, and the sons of Israel were 300,000, and the men of Judah 30,000. They said to the messengers who had come, This is what you shall say to the men of Jabesh-Gilead. Tomorrow, by the time the sun is hot, you will be saved. So the messengers went and told the men of Jabesh, and they rejoiced. Then the men of Jabesh said, "Tomorrow we will come out to you, and you may do to us whatever seems good to you." The next morning Saul put the people in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the camp at the morning watch, and struck and killed the Ammonites until the heat of the day. And those who survived scattered, so that no 2 of them were left together. Then the people said to Samuel, "Who is he that said, 'Shall Saul reign over us?' Bring the men so that we may put them to death." But Saul said, "Not a single person shall be put to death this day, for today the Lord has brought about victory in Israel." Then Samuel said to the people, "Come, and let us go to Gilgal and renew the kingdom there." So all the people went to Gilgal, and there they made Saul king before the Lord in Gilgal. There they also offered sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord, and there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly. Chapter 12. Then Samuel said to all Israel, "Behold, I have listened to your voice for all that you said to me, and I have appointed a king over you. Now here is the king walking before you. But as for me, I am old and gray, and my sons are here with you, and I have walked before you since my youth to this day. Here I am. Testify against me before the Lord and his anointed. Whose ox have I taken? Or whose donkey have I taken? Or whom have I exploited? Whom have I oppressed? Or from whose hand have I taken a bribe to close my eyes with it? I will return it to you." And they said, "You have not exploited us, or oppressed us, or taken anything from anyone's hand." So he said to them, "The Lord is witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day, that you have found nothing in my hand." And they said, "He is witness." Then Samuel said to the people, "It is the Lord who appointed Moses and Aaron, and who brought your fathers up from the land of Egypt. Now then, take your stand, so that I may enter into judgment with you before the Lord concerning all the righteous acts of the Lord that he did for you and your fathers. When Jacob went into Egypt, and your fathers cried out to the Lord, then the Lord sent Moses and Aaron, who brought your fathers out of Egypt, and settled them in this place. But they forgot the Lord their God, so he sold them into the hand of Sisera, commander of the army of Hazor, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab, and they fought against them. They cried out to the Lord and said, "We have sinned, because we have abandoned the Lord and have served the Baals and the Ashtaroth. But now save us from the hands of our enemies, and we will serve you." Then the Lord sent Jerubbaal, Bedan, Jephthah, and Samuel, and saved you from the hands of your enemies all around, so that you lived in security. But when you saw that Nahash, the king of the sons of Ammon, was coming against you, you said to me, "No, but a king shall reign over us." Yet the Lord your God was your king. And now behold, the king whom you have chosen, whom you have asked for, and behold, the Lord has put a king over you. If you will fear the Lord and serve him, and listen to his voice, and not rebel against the command of the Lord, then both you and the king who reigns over you will follow the Lord your God. But if you do not listen to the voice of the Lord, but rebel against the command of the Lord, then the hand of the Lord will be against you, even as it was against your fathers. Even now, take your stand and see this great thing which the Lord is going to do before your eyes. Is it not the wheat harvest today? I will call to the Lord that he will send thunder and rain. Then you will know and see that your wickedness is great, which you have done in the sight of the Lord, by asking for yourselves a king. So Samuel called to the Lord, And the Lord sent thunder and rain that day, and all the people greatly feared the Lord and Samuel. Then all the people said to Samuel, "Pray to the Lord your God for your servants, so that we do not die. For we have added to all our sins this evil, by asking for ourselves a king." Samuel said to the people, "Do not fear. You have committed all this evil, yet do not turn aside from following the Lord, but serve the Lord with all your heart. Indeed, you must not turn aside, for then you would go after useless things, which cannot benefit or save, because they are useless. For the Lord will not abandon his people on account of his great name, because the Lord has been pleased to make you a people for himself. Furthermore, as for me, far be it from me that I would sin against the Lord by ceasing to pray for you. But I will instruct you in the good and right way. Only fear the Lord and serve him in truth with all your heart. For consider what great things he has done for you. But if you still do evil, both you and your king will be swept away." Chapter 13. Saul was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 42 years over Israel. Now Saul chose for himself 3,000 men of Israel, of whom 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash, and in the hill country of Bethel, while 1,000 were with Jonathan at Gibeah of Benjamin. But he sent the rest of the people away, each to his tent. And Jonathan attacked the garrison of the Philistines that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard about it. Then Saul blew the trumpet throughout the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." And all Israel heard the news that Saul had attacked the garrison of the Philistines, and also that Israel had become repulsive to the Philistines. Then the people were summoned to Saul at Gilgal. Now the Philistines assembled to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people like the sand which is on the seashore in abundance. And they came up and camped in Michmash, east of Bethaven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble, for the people were hard pressed, then the people kept themselves hidden in caves, in crevices, in cliffs, in crypts, and in pits. And some of the Hebrews crossed the Jordan into the land of Gad and Gilead. But as for Saul, he was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him, trembling. Now he waited for 7 days until the appointed time that Samuel had set. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattering from him. So Saul said, "Bring me the burnt offering and the peace offerings." And he offered the burnt offering. But as soon as he finished offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came. And Saul went out to meet him and to greet him. But Samuel said, "What have you done?" And Saul said, "Since I saw that the people were scattering from me, and that you did not come at the appointed time, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash, I thought, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not asked the favor of the Lord. So I worked up the courage and offered the burnt offering." But Samuel said to Saul, "You have acted foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, for the Lord would now have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom shall not endure. The Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart, and the Lord has appointed him ruler over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you." Then Samuel set out and went up from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin. And Saul counted the people who were present with him, about 600 men. Now Saul, his son Jonathan, and the people who were present with them were staying in Gibeah of Benjamin, while the Philistines camped at Michmash. Then raiders came from the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. One company turned toward Ophrah, to the land of Shual, and another company turned toward Beth-horon, and another company turned toward the border that overlooks the valley of Zeboim, toward the wilderness. Now no blacksmith could be found in all the land of Israel, because the Philistines said, "Otherwise the Hebrews will make swords or spears." So all Israel went down to the Philistines, each to sharpen his plowshare, his mattock, his axe, and his hoe. The charge was 2/3 of a shekel for the plowshares, the mattocks, the forks, and the axes, and to fix the cattle goads. So it came about on the day of battle that neither sword nor spear was found in the hands of any of the people who were with Saul and Jonathan, but they were found with Saul and his son Jonathan. And the garrison of the Philistines went out to the gorge of Michmash. Chapter 14. Now the day came that Jonathan, the son of Saul, said to the young man who was carrying his armor, "Come, and let's cross over to the Philistines' garrison that is on the other side." But he did not tell his father. Saul was staying on the outskirts of Gibeah, under the pomegranate tree that is in Migron. And the people who were with him numbered about 600 men. And Ahijah, the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the priest of the Lord at Shiloh, was wearing an ephod. And the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. Now between the gorges, by which Jonathan sought to cross over to the Philistines' garrison, there was a rocky crag on the one side, and a rocky crag on the other side. And the name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other Seneh. The one crag rose on the north opposite Michmash, and the other on the south opposite Geba. Then Jonathan said to the young man who was carrying his armor, "Come, and let's cross over to the garrison of these uncircumcised men. Perhaps the Lord will work for us, because the Lord is not limited to saving by many or by few." His armor-bearer said to him, "Do everything that is in your heart, turn yourself to it, and here I am with you, as your heart desires." Then Jonathan said, "Behold, we are going to cross over to the men and reveal ourselves to them. If they say to us, 'Wait until we come to you,' then we will stand in our place and not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come up to us,' then we will go up, for the Lord has handed them over to us, and this shall be the sign to us." When the 2 of them revealed themselves to the garrison of the Philistines said, "Behold, Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they have kept themselves hidden." So the men of the garrison responded to Jonathan and his armor-bearer and said, "Come up to us, and we will inform you of something." And Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Come up after me, for the Lord has handed them over to Israel." Then Jonathan climbed up on his hands and feet, with his armor-bearer behind him, and the men fell before Jonathan, and his armor-bearer put some to death after him. Now that first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor-bearer inflicted was about 20 men within about half a furrow in an acre of land. And there was a trembling in the camp, in the field, and among all the people. Even the garrison and the raiders trembled, and the earth quaked, so that it became a great trembling. Now Saul's watchmen in Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude dissolved. They went here and there. So Saul said to the people who were with him, "Look carefully now, and see who has left us." And when they had looked, behold, Jonathan and his armor-bearer were not there. Then Saul said to Ahijah, "Bring the ark of God here," for at that time the ark of God was with the sons of Israel. While Saul talked to the priest, the commotion in the camp of the Philistines continued and increased. So Saul said to the priest, "Withdraw your hand." Then Saul and all the people who were with him rallied and came to the battle. And behold, every man's sword was against his fellow Philistine, and there was very great confusion. Now the Hebrews who were with the Philistines previously, who went up with them all around in the camp, even they also returned to be with the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. When all the men of Israel, who had kept themselves hidden in the hill country of Ephraim, heard that the Philistines had fled, they also closely pursued them in the battle. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle spread beyond Beth-aven. Now the men of Israel were hard-pressed on that day, for Saul had put the people under oath, saying, "Cursed be the man who eats food before evening, and before I have avenged myself on my enemies." So none of the people tasted food. All the people of the land entered the forest, and there was honey on the ground. When the people entered the forest, behold, there was honey dripping. But no man put his hand to his mouth, because the people feared the oath. However, Jonathan had not heard it when his father put the people under oath. So he put out the end of the staff that was in his hand, and dipped it in the honeycomb, and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes brightened. Then one of the people responded and said, "Your father strictly put the people under oath, saying, 'Cursed be the man who eats food today.'" And the people were weary. Then Jonathan said, "My father has troubled the land. See now that my eyes have brightened, because I tasted a little of this honey. How much more, if only the people had freely eaten today of the spoils of their enemies which they found. For now the defeat among the Philistines has not been great." They attacked the Philistines that day, from Michmash to Aijalon. But the people were very tired. So the people loudly rushed upon the spoils, and took sheep, oxen, and calves, and slaughtered them on the ground. And the people ate them with the blood. Then observers informed Saul, saying, "Look, the people are sinning against the Lord by eating meat with the blood." And he said, "You have acted treacherously. Roll a large rock to me today." Then Saul said, "Disperse yourselves among the people, and say to them, 'Each one of you bring me his ox or his sheep, and slaughter it here, and eat, and do not sin against the Lord by eating it with the blood.'" So all the people brought them that night, each one his ox with him, and they slaughtered them there. And Saul built an altar to the Lord. It was the first altar that he built to the Lord. Then Saul said, "Let's go down after the Philistines by night, and take plunder among them until the morning light, and let's not leave a man among them alive." And they said, "Do whatever seems good to you." So the priest said, "Let's approach God here." So Saul inquired of God, "Shall I go down after the Philistines? Will you hand them over to Israel?" But he did not answer him on that day. Then Saul said, "Come here, all you leaders of the people, and investigate and see how this sin has happened today. For as the Lord lives who saves Israel, even if it is in my son Jonathan, he shall assuredly die." But not one of all the people answered him. Then he said to all Israel, "You shall be on one side, and I and my son Jonathan will be on the other side." And the people said to Saul, "Do what seems good to you." Therefore Saul said to the Lord, the God of Israel, "Give a perfect lot." And Jonathan and Saul were selected by lot, but the people were exonerated. Then Saul said, "Cast lots between me and my son Jonathan." And Jonathan was selected by lot. So Saul said to Jonathan, "Tell me what you have done." And Jonathan told him and said, "I did indeed taste a little honey with the end of the staff that was in my hand. Here I am. I must die." And Saul said, "May God do the same to me and more also, for you shall certainly die, Jonathan." But the people said to Saul, "Must Jonathan die? He who has brought about this great victory in Israel? Far from it. As the Lord lives, not even a hair of his head shall fall to the ground, because he has worked with God this day." So the people rescued Jonathan, and he did not die. Then Saul went up from pursuing the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. Now when Saul had taken control of the kingdom over Israel, he fought against all his enemies on every side, against Moab, the sons of Ammon, Edom, the kings of Zobah, and the Philistines. And wherever he turned, he inflicted punishment. And he acted valiantly and defeated the Amalekites, and saved Israel from the hands of those who plundered them. Now the sons of Saul were Jonathan, Ishvi, and Malchishua, and the names of his 2 daughters were these. The name of the firstborn was Merab, and the name of the younger, Michal. And the name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam, the daughter of Ahimaaz. And the name of the commander of his army was Abner, the son of Ner, Saul's uncle. Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. Now the war against the Philistines was severe all the days of Saul. And when Saul saw any warrior or any valiant man, he attached him to his staff. Chapter 15. Then Samuel said to Saul, "The Lord sent me to anoint you as king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore listen to the words of the Lord. This is what the Lord of armies says. I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, in that he obstructed him on the way while he was coming up from Egypt. Now go and strike Amalek, and completely destroy everything that he has, and do not spare him, but put to death both man and woman, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey." Then Saul summoned the people and counted them in Telaim, 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Judah. And Saul came to the city of Amalek and set an ambush in the wadi. But Saul said to the Kenites, "Go, get away. Go down from among the Amalekites, so that I do not destroy you along with them. For you showed kindness to all the sons of Israel when they went up from Egypt." So the Kenites got away from among the Amalekites. Then Saul defeated the Amalekites, from Havilah going toward Shur, which is east of Egypt. He captured Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and completely destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag, and the best of the sheep, the oxen, the more valuable animals, the lambs, and everything that was good, and were unwilling to destroy them completely. But everything despicable and weak, that they completely destroyed. Then the word of the Lord came to Samuel, saying, "I regret that I have made Saul king, because he has turned back from following me, and has not carried out my commands." And Samuel was furious, and cried out to the Lord all night. Samuel got up early in the morning to meet Saul, and it was reported to Samuel, saying, "Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set up a monument for himself, then turned and proceeded down to Gilgal." So Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, "Blessed are you of the Lord. I have carried out the command of the Lord." But Samuel said, "What then is this bleating of the sheep in my ears, and the bellowing of the oxen which I hear?" Saul said, "They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and oxen to sacrifice to the Lord your God, but the rest we have completely destroyed." Then Samuel said to Saul, "Stop, and let me inform you of what the Lord said to me last night." And he said to him, "Speak." So Samuel said, "Is it not true, though you were insignificant in your own eyes, that you became the head of the tribes of Israel? For the Lord anointed you as king over Israel. And the Lord sent you on a mission and said, 'Go and completely destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are eliminated.' Why then did you not obey the voice of the Lord? Instead, you loudly rushed upon the spoils and did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Then Saul said to Samuel, I did obey the voice of the Lord, for I went on the mission on which the Lord sent me, and I have brought Agag, the king of Amalek, and have completely destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took some of the spoils, sheep and oxen, the choicest of the things designated for destruction, to sacrifice to the Lord your God at Gilgal. Samuel said, Does the Lord have as much delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than a sacrifice, and to pay attention is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as reprehensible as the sin of divination, and insubordination is as reprehensible as false religion and idolatry. Since you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has also rejected you from being king. Then Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have violated the command of the Lord and your words, because I feared the people and listened to their voice. Now then, please pardon my sin and return with me, so that I may worship the Lord. But Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. Then Samuel turned to go, but Saul grasped the edge of his robe, and it tore off. So Samuel said to him, The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today, and has given it to your neighbor, who is better than you. Also, the glory of Israel will not lie, nor change his mind, for he is not a man that he would change his mind. Then Saul said, I have sinned, but please honor me now before the elders of my people and before all Israel, and go back with me, so that I may worship the Lord your God. So Samuel went back following Saul, and Saul worshipped the Lord. Then Samuel said, Bring me Agag, the king of the Amalekites. And Agag came to him cheerfully. And Agag said, Surely the bitterness of death is gone. But Samuel said, As your sword has made women childless, so shall your mother be childless among women. And Samuel cut Agag to pieces before the Lord at Gilgal. Then Samuel went to Ramah, but Saul went up to his house at Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death, though Samuel mourned for Saul. And the Lord regretted that he had made Saul king over Israel. Chapter 16. Now the Lord said to Samuel, How long are you going to mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him from being king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go. I will send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, because I have chosen a king for myself among his sons. But Samuel said, How can I go? When Saul hears about it, he will kill me. But the Lord said, Take a heifer with you, and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. And you shall invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will let you know what you shall do. And you shall anoint for me the one whom I designate to you. So Samuel did what the Lord told him, and he came to Bethlehem. Then the elders of the city came trembling to meet him, and said, Do you come in peace? And he said, In peace. I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Consecrate yourselves, and come with me to the sacrifice. He also consecrated Jesse and his sons, and invited them to the sacrifice. When they entered, he looked at Eliab, and thought, Surely the Lord's anointed is standing before him. But the Lord said to Samuel, Do not look at his appearance, or at the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For God does not see as man sees, since man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." Then Jesse called Abinadab, and had him pass before Samuel. But he said, "The Lord has not chosen this one either." Next Jesse had Shammah pass by, and he said, "The Lord has not chosen this one either." So Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel. But Samuel said to Jesse, "The Lord has not chosen these." Then Samuel said to Jesse, "Are these all the boys?" And he said, "The youngest is still left, but behold, he is tending the sheep." So Samuel said to Jesse, "Send word and bring him, for we will not take our places at the table until he comes here." So he sent word and brought him in. Now he was reddish, with beautiful eyes and a handsome appearance. And the Lord said, "Arise, anoint him, for this is he." So Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brothers, and the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon David from that day forward. And Samuel set out and went to Ramah. Now the Spirit of the Lord left Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord terrified him. Saul's servants then said to him, "Behold now, an evil spirit from God is terrifying you. May our Lord now command your servants who are before you. Have them search for a man who is a skillful musician on the harp, and it shall come about, whenever the evil spirit from God is upon you, that he shall play the harp with his hand, and you will become well." So Saul said to his servants, "Now select for me a man who can play well, and bring him to me." Then one of the young men responded and said, "Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse the Bethlehemite, who is a skillful musician, a valiant mighty man, a warrior, skillful in speech, and a handsome man, and the Lord is with him." So Saul sent messengers to Jesse to say, "Send me your son David, who is with the flock." And Jesse took a donkey loaded with bread and a jug of wine, and he took a young goat and sent them to Saul by his son David. Then David came to Saul and attended him, and Saul greatly loved him, and he became his armor-bearer. So Saul sent word to Jesse, saying, "Let David now be my attendant, for he has found favor in my sight." So it came about, whenever the evil spirit from God came to Saul, David would take the harp and play it with his hand. And Saul would feel relieved and become well, and the evil spirit would leave him. Chapter 17. Now the Philistines gathered their armies for battle, and they were gathered at Soko, which belongs to Judah, and they camped between Soko and Azekah in Ephes-dammim. Saul and the men of Israel were assembled and camped in the valley of Elah, and they drew up in battle formation to confront the Philistines. The Philistines were standing on the mountain on one side, while Israel was standing on the mountain on the other side, with the valley between them. Then a champion came forward from the army encampment of the Philistines, named Goliath from Gath. His height was 6 cubits and a span, and he had a bronze helmet on his head, and he wore scale armor which weighed 5,000 shekels of bronze. He also had bronze greaves on his legs, and a bronze saber slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and the head of his spear weighed 600 shekels of iron, and his shield carrier walked in front of him. He stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, and said to them, "Why do you come out to draw up in battle formation? Am I not the Philistine, and you the servants of Saul? Choose a man as your representative, and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight me and kill me, then we will become your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall become our servants and serve us." Then the Philistine said, I have defied the ranks of Israel this day. Give me a man, so that we may fight together." When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and very fearful. Now David was the son of the Ephrathite of Bethlehem in Judah, the man whose name was Jesse. And he had 8 sons. And Jesse was old in the days of Saul, advanced in years among men. The 3 older sons of Jesse had followed Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons who had gone into the battle were Eliab, the firstborn, and second to him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. So David was the youngest. Now the 3 oldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend his father's flock at Bethlehem. And the Philistine came forward morning and evening, and took his stand for 40 days. Then Jesse said to his son David, "Take now for your brothers an ephah of this roasted grain and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to your brothers. Bring also these 10 slices of cheese to the commander of their 1,000, and look into the well-being of your brothers, and bring back confirmation from them. For Saul and they, and all the men of Israel, are in the valley of Elah, fighting the Philistines." So David got up early in the morning, and left the flock with a keeper, and took the supplies, and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the entrenchment, encircling the camp, while the army was going out in battle formation, shouting the war cry. Israel and the Philistines drew up in battle formation, army against army. Then David left the baggage in the care of the baggage keeper, and ran to the battle line. And he entered and greeted his brothers. As he was speaking with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine from Gath, named Goliath, was coming up from the army of the Philistines. And he spoke these same words, and David heard him. When all the men of Israel saw the man, they fled from him and were very fearful. And the men of Israel said, "Have you seen this man who is coming up? Surely he is coming up to defy Israel. And it will be that the king will make the man who kills him wealthy with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel." Then David said to the men who were standing by him, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine, and rids Israel of the disgrace? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he has dared to defy the armies of the living God?" The people answered him in agreement with this statement, saying, "This is what will be done for the man who kills him." Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard him when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger burned against David, and he said, "Why is it that you have come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I myself know your insolence and the wickedness of your heart, for you have come down in order to see the battle." But David said, "What have I done now? Was it not just a question?" Then he turned away from him to another and said the same thing, and the people replied with the same words as before. When the words that David spoke were heard, they informed Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, "May no one's heart fail on account of him. Your servant will go and fight this Philistine." But Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight him, for you are only a youth, while he has been a warrior since his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant was tending his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and took a sheep from the flock, I went out after it and attacked it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. And when it rose up against me, I grabbed it by its mane, and struck it and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has defied the armies of the living God." And David said, "The Lord who saved me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear, he will save me from the hand of this Philistine." So Saul said to David, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." Then Saul clothed David with his military attire, and put a bronze helmet on his head, and outfitted him with armor. And David strapped on his sword over his military attire, and struggled at walking, for he had not trained with the armor. So David said to Saul, I cannot go with these, because I have not trained with them. And David took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, and chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in the shepherd's bag which he had, that is, in his shepherd's pouch, and his sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. Then the Philistine came and approached David with the shield-bearer in front of him. When the Philistine looked and saw David, he was contemptuous of him, for he was only a youth and reddish with a handsome appearance. So the Philistine said to David, Am I a dog, that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine also said to David, Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the sky and the wild animals. But David said to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword, a spear, and a saber, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I will strike you and remove your head from you. Then I will give the dead bodies of the army of the Philistines this day to the birds of the sky and the wild animals of the earth, so that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that this entire assembly may know that the Lord does not save by sword or by spear. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will hand you over to us. Then it happened, when the Philistine came closer to meet David, that David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand into his bag and took from it a stone and slung it, and struck the Philistine on his forehead. And the stone penetrated his forehead, and he fell on his face to the ground. So David prevailed over the Philistine with the sling and the stone. He struck the Philistine and killed him, and there was no sword in David's hand. Then David ran and stood over the Philistine, and took his sword and drew it out of its sheath, and finished him, and cut off his head with it. When the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. Then the men of Israel and Judah rose up and shouted, and they pursued the Philistines as far as the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the Philistine dead lay along the way to Shaaraim, even to Gath and Ekron. Then the sons of Israel returned from their close pursuit of the Philistines and plundered their camps. And David took the Philistine's head and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his weapons in his tent. Now when Saul had seen David going out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Abner, whose son is this young man? And Abner said, By your life, O king, I do not know. And the king said, You then ask whose son the youth is. So when David returned from killing the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the Philistine's head in his hand. Then Saul said to him, Whose son are you, young man? And David answered, I am the son of your servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. Chapter 18. Now it came about, when he had finished speaking to Saul, that Jonathan committed himself to David, and Jonathan loved him as himself. And Saul took him that day, and did not let him return to his father's house. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David, because he loved him as himself. Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him, and gave it to David, with his military gear, including his sword, his bow, and his belt. And David went into battle wherever Saul sent him, and always achieved success. So Saul put him in charge of the men of war. and it was pleasing in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. Now it happened as they were coming, when David returned from killing the Philistine, that the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tambourines, with joy, and with other musical instruments. The women sang as they played and said, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s." Then Saul became very angry, for this lyric displeased him, and he said, "They have given David credit for 10,000s, but to me they have given credit for only thousands. Now what more can he have but the kingdom?" And Saul eyed David with suspicion from that day on. Now it came about on the next day that an evil spirit from God rushed upon Saul, and he raved in the midst of the house, while David was playing the harp with his hand, as usual, and a spear was in Saul's hand. Then Saul hurled the spear, for he thought, "I will pin David to the wall." But David escaped from his presence twice. Now Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, but had left Saul. So Saul removed him from his presence, and appointed him as his commander of 1,000, and he went out and came in before the people. David was successful in all his ways, for the Lord was with him. When Saul saw that he was very successful, he was afraid of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David, for he would go out to battle and return before them. Then Saul said to David, "Here is my older daughter Merab. I will give her to you as a wife. Only be a valiant man for me, and fight the Lord's battles." For Saul thought, "My hand shall not be against him, but let the hand of the Philistines be against him." But David said to Saul, "Who am I, and who is my family, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be the king's son-in-law?" So it came about at the time that Merab, Saul's daughter, was to be given to David, that she was given instead to Adriel, the Meholathite, as a wife. Now Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David. When they informed Saul, the thing was pleasing to him. For Saul thought, "I will give her to him, so that she may become a trap for him, and that the hand of the Philistines may be against him." Therefore Saul said to David, "For a second time you may become my son-in-law today." Then Saul commanded his servants, "Speak to David in secret, saying, 'Behold, the king delights in you, and all his servants love you. Now then, become the king's son-in-law.'" So Saul's servants spoke these words to David. But David said, "Is it trivial in your sight to become the king's son-in-law, since I am only a poor man and insignificant?" Then Saul's servants reported to him, saying, "These are the words David spoke." Saul then said, "This is what you shall say to David. The king does not desire any dowry, except 100 foreskins of the Philistines, to take vengeance on the king's enemies." But Saul plotted to have David fall by the hand of the Philistines. When his servants told David these words, it pleased David to become the king's son-in-law. So before the time had expired, David set out and went, he and his men, and fatally struck 200 men among the Philistines. Then David brought their foreskins, and they presented all 200 of them to the king, so that he might become the king's son-in-law. And Saul gave him his daughter Michal as a wife. When Saul saw and realized that the Lord was with David, and that Michal, Saul's daughter, loved him, then Saul was even more afraid of David. So Saul was David's enemy continually. Then the commanders of the Philistines went to battle, and it happened as often as they went out that David was more successful than all the servants of Saul. So his name was held in high esteem. Chapter 19. Now Saul told his son Jonathan and all his servants to put David to death. But Jonathan, Saul's son, greatly delighted in David. So Jonathan informed David, saying, "My father Saul is seeking to put you to death. Now then, please be on your guard in the morning, and stay in a hiding place, and conceal yourself. And as for me, I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are hiding, and I will speak with my father about you, and whatever I find out, I will tell you." Then Jonathan spoke well of David to his father Saul, and said to him, "May the king not sin against his servant David, since he has not sinned against you, and since his deeds have been very beneficial to you. For he took his life in his hand and struck the Philistine, and the Lord brought about a great victory for all Israel. You saw it and rejoiced. Why then would you sin against innocent blood by putting David to death for no reason?" Saul listened to the voice of Jonathan, and Saul vowed, "As the Lord lives, David shall not be put to death." Then Jonathan called David, and Jonathan told him all these words. And Jonathan brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as before. When there was war again, David went out and fought the Philistines, and defeated them with great slaughter, so that they fled from him. Now there was an evil spirit from the Lord on Saul, as he was sitting in his house with his spear in his hand, and David was playing the harp with his hand. And Saul tried to pin David to the wall with the spear, but he escaped from Saul's presence, so that he stuck the spear into the wall. And David fled and escaped that night. Then Saul sent messengers to David's house to watch him, in order to put him to death in the morning. But Michal, David's wife, informed him, saying, "If you do not save your life tonight, tomorrow you will be put to death." So Michal let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. And Michal took the household idol and laid it on the bed, and put a quilt of goat's hair at its head, and covered it with clothing. When Saul sent messengers to take David, she said, "He is sick." Then Saul sent messengers to see David, saying, "Bring him up to me on his bed, so that I may put him to death." When the messengers entered, behold, the household idol was on the bed, with the quilt of goat's hair at its head. So Saul said to Michal, "Why have you betrayed me like this, and let my enemy go, so that he has escaped?" And Michal said to Saul, "He said to me, 'Let me go. Why should I put you to death?'" So David fled and escaped, and came to Samuel at Ramah. And he informed him of everything that Saul had done to him. And he and Samuel went and stayed in Naioth. But it was reported to Saul, saying, "Behold, David is at Naioth in Ramah." Then Saul sent messengers to take David. But when they saw the company of prophets prophesying, with Samuel standing and presiding over them, the Spirit of God came upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. When Saul was informed of this, he sent other messengers, but they also prophesied. So Saul sent messengers again the third time, yet they prophesied. Then he went to Ramah himself, and came as far as the large well that is in Secu. And he asked, "Where are Samuel and David?" And someone said, "Behold, they are at Naioth in Ramah." So he proceeded there to Naioth in Ramah. But the Spirit of God came upon him also, so that he went along prophesying continually until he came to Naioth in Ramah. He also stripped off his clothes, and he too prophesied before Samuel, and lay down naked all that day and all night. Therefore they say, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" Chapter 20. Then David fled from Naioth in Ramah, and he came and said to Jonathan, "What have I done? What is my guilt? And what is my sin before your father, that he is seeking my life?" He said to him, "Far from it, you shall not die. Behold, my father does nothing either great or small without informing me. So why would my father hide this thing from me? It is not so." Yet David vowed again, saying, "Your father is well aware that I have found favor in your sight." And he has said, "Jonathan is not to know this, otherwise he will be worried. But indeed, as the Lord lives and as your soul lives, there is just a step between me and death." Then Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you say, I will do for you." So David said to Jonathan, "Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I am obligated to sit down to eat with the king. But let me go, so that I may hide myself in the field until the third evening. If your father misses me at all, then say, 'David earnestly requested leave of me to run to Bethlehem, his city, because it is the yearly sacrifice there for the whole family.' If he says, 'That is good,' your servant will be safe. But if he is very angry, be aware that he has decided on evil. So deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant of the Lord with you. But if I am guilty of wrongdoing, kill me yourself. For why then should you bring me to your father?" Jonathan said, "Far be it from you, for if I in fact learn that my father has decided to inflict harm on you, would I not inform you?" Then David said to Jonathan, "Who will inform me if your father answers you harshly?" Jonathan said to David, "Come, and let's go out to the field." So both of them went out to the field. Then Jonathan said to David, "The Lord, the God of Israel, is my witness. When I have sounded out my father about this time tomorrow, or the third day, behold, if he has a good feeling toward you, shall I not then send word to you and inform you? If it pleases my father to do you harm, may the Lord do so to me, and more so, if I fail to inform you and send you away, so that you may go in safety. And may the Lord be with you as he has been with my father. And if I am still alive, will you not show me the faithfulness of the Lord, so that I do not die? And you shall never cut off your loyalty to my house, not even when the Lord cuts off every one of the enemies of David from the face of the earth." So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, "May the Lord demand it from the hands of David's enemies." And Jonathan made David vow again because of his love for him, because he loved him as he loved his own life. Then Jonathan said to him, "Tomorrow is the new moon, and you will be missed, since your seat will be empty. When you have stayed for 3 days, you shall go down quickly and come to the place where you hid yourself on that eventful day, and you shall remain beside the stone Ezel. And I will shoot 3 arrows to the side, as though I shot at a target. Then, behold, I will send the boy, telling him, 'Go, find the arrows.' If I specifically say to the boy, 'Behold, the arrows are on this side of you, get them, then come, because it is safe for you, and there is nothing to harm you, as the Lord lives.' But if I say to the youth, 'Behold, the arrows are beyond you,' go, because the Lord has sent you away. As for the agreement of which you and I have spoken, behold, the Lord is between you and me forever." So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon came, the king sat down to eat food. Now the king sat on his seat as usual, the seat by the wall. Then Jonathan stood up, and Abner sat down by Saul's side. But David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul did not say anything that day, because he thought, "It must have been an accident. He is not clean. Undoubtedly, he is not clean." But it came about the next day, the second day of the new moon, that David's place was empty again. So Saul said to his son Jonathan, "Why has the son of Jesse not come to the meal, either yesterday or today?" And Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly requested leave of me to go to Bethlehem. He said, "Please let me go, because our family has a sacrifice in the city, and my brother has ordered me to attend. So now, if I have found favor in your sight, please let me slip away, so that I may see my brothers. For this reason he has not come to the king's table." Then Saul's anger burned against Jonathan, and he said to him, "You son of a perverse, rebellious woman! Do I not know that you are choosing the son of Jesse to your own shame, and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on the earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now then, send men and bring him to me, for he is doomed to die." But Jonathan replied to his father Saul, and said to him, "Why must he be put to death? What has he done?" Then Saul hurled his spear at him to strike and kill him. So Jonathan knew that his father had decided to put David to death. Then Jonathan got up from the table in the heat of anger, and did not eat food on the second day of the new moon, because he was worried about David, since his father had insulted him. Now it came about in the morning that Jonathan went out to the field at the time agreed upon with David, and a little boy was with him. He said to his boy, "Run, find now the arrows which I am about to shoot." The boy ran, and he shot an arrow past him. When the boy reached the location of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan called after the boy and said, "Is the arrow not beyond you?" Then Jonathan called after the boy, "Hurry, be quick, do not stay." And Jonathan's boy picked up the arrow and came to his master. But the boy was not aware of anything. Only Jonathan and David knew about the matter. Then Jonathan gave his weapons to his boy and said to him, "Go, bring them to the city." When the boy was gone, David got up from the south side. Then he fell on his face to the ground and bowed 3 times. And they kissed each other and wept together, until David wept immeasurably. Then Jonathan said to David, "Go in safety, since we have sworn to each other in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord will be between me and you, and between my descendants and your descendants forever.'" So David set out and went on his way, while Jonathan went into the city. Chapter 21. Then David came to Nob, to Ahimelech the priest. And Ahimelech came trembling to meet David, and said to him, "Why are you alone, and no one with you?" David said to Ahimelech the priest, "The king has commissioned me with a matter, and has said to me, 'No one is to know anything about the matter on which I am sending you, and with which I have commissioned you, and I have directed the young men to a certain place. Now then, what do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread, or whatever can be found.' The priest answered David and said, 'There is no ordinary bread on hand, but there is consecrated bread, if only the young men have kept themselves from women.' David answered the priest and said to him, 'Be assured, women have been denied to us as previously when I left, and the bodies of the young men were consecrated, though it was an ordinary journey. How much more, then, will their bodies be consecrated today?' So the priest gave him consecrated bread, for there was no bread there except the bread of the presence, which was removed from its place before the Lord, in order to put hot bread in its place on the day it was taken away. Now one of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord, and his name was Doeg the Edomite, the chief of Saul's shepherds. David said to Ahimelech, "Now is there no spear or sword on hand? For I brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's matter was urgent." Then the priest said, "The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of Elah, behold, it is wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you would take it for yourself, take it. for there is no other except it here. And David said, There is none like it. Give it to me. Then David set out and fled that day from Saul, and went to Achish, king of Gath. But the servants of Achish said to him, Is this not David, the king of the land? Did they not sing of this one as they danced, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s? David took these words to heart, and greatly feared Achish, king of Gath. So he disguised his sanity while in their sight, and acted insanely in their custody, and he scribbled on the doors of the gate, and drooled on his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, Look, you see the man is behaving like an insane person. Why do you bring him to me? Do I lack insane people, that you have brought this one to behave like an insane person in my presence? Shall this one come into my house? Chapter 22. So David departed from there, and escaped to the cave of Adullam. And when his brothers and all his father's household heard about it, they went down there to him. Then everyone who was in distress, and everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was discontented, gathered to him, and he became captain over them. Now there were about 400 men with him. And David went from there to Mizpah of Moab. And he said to the king of Moab, Please, let my father and my mother come and stay with you until I know what God will do for me. Then he left them with the king of Moab, and they stayed with him all the time that David was in the stronghold. But Gad the prophet said to David, Do not stay in the stronghold. Leave and go into the land of Judah. So David left and went into the forest of Hereth. Then Saul heard that David and the men who were with him had been discovered. Now Saul was in Gibeah, sitting under the tamarisk tree on the height with his spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing in front of him. Saul said to his servants, who were standing in front of him, Hear now, you Benjaminites. Will the son of Jesse really give all of you fields and vineyards? Will he make you all commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds? For all of you have conspired against me, so that there is no one who informs me when my son makes a covenant with the son of Jesse, and there is none of you who cares about me or informs me that my son has stirred up my servant against me to lie in ambush, as it is this day. Then Doeg the Edomite, who was standing in front of the servants of Saul, responded and said, I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob, to Ahimelech the son of Ahitub. And he inquired of the Lord for him, gave him provisions, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. Then the king sent a messenger to summon Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's household, the priests who were in Nob, and all of them came to the king. Saul said, Listen now, son of Ahitub. And he replied, Here I am, my lord. Saul then said to him, Why have you and the son of Jesse conspired against me, in that you have given him bread and a sword, and have inquired of God for him, so that he would rise up against me by lying in ambush, as it is this day? Then Ahimelech answered the king and said, And who among all your servants is as faithful as David, the king's own son-in-law, who is commander over your bodyguard and is honored in your house? Did I just begin to inquire of God for him today? Far be it from me. Do not let the king impute anything against his servant or against any of the household of my father, because your servant knows nothing at all of this whole affair. But the king said, You shall certainly die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's household. And the king said to the guards who were attending him, Turn around and put the priests of the Lord to death, because their hand also is with David, and because they knew that he was fleeing and did not inform me. But the servants of the king were unwilling to reach out with their hands to attack the priests of the Lord. Then the king said to Doeg, "You turn around and attack the priests." And Doeg the Edomite turned around and attacked the priests. And he killed on that day 85 men who wore the linen ephod. He also struck Nob, the city of the priests, with the edge of the sword, both men and women, children and infants. He also struck oxen, donkeys, and sheep with the edge of the sword. But one son of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled to David. Abiathar informed David that Saul had killed the priests of the Lord. Then David said to Abiathar, "I knew on that day, when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would certainly tell Saul. I myself have turned against every person in your father's household. Stay with me. Do not be afraid, even though he who is seeking my life is seeking your life, for you are safe with me." Chapter 23. Then they informed David, saying, "Behold, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah, and are plundering the threshing floors." So David inquired of the Lord, saying, "Shall I go and attack these Philistines?" And the Lord said to David, "Go and attack the Philistines, and save Keilah." But David's men said to him, "Behold, we are fearful here in Judah. How much more then if we go to Keilah against the ranks of the Philistines?" So David inquired of the Lord once more. And the Lord answered him and said, "Arise, go down to Keilah, for I am going to hand the Philistines over to you." Then David and his men went to Keilah and fought the Philistines. And he drove away their livestock and struck them with a great slaughter. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. Now it came about, when Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, fled to David at Keilah, that he came down with an ephod in his hand. When it was reported to Saul that David had come to Keilah, Saul said, "God has handed him over to me, for he shut himself in by entering a city with double gates and bars." So Saul summoned all the people for war to go down to Keilah to besiege David and his men. But David knew that Saul was plotting evil against him, so he said to Abiathar the priest, "Bring the ephod here." Then David said, "Lord God of Israel, your servant has heard for certain that Saul is seeking to come to Keilah, to destroy the city on my account. Will the citizens of Keilah hand me over to him? Will Saul come down just as your servant has heard? Lord God of Israel, please tell your servant." And the Lord said, "He will come down." Then David said, "Will the citizens of Keilah hand me and my men over to Saul?" And the Lord said, "They will hand you over." Then David and his men, about 600, rose up and departed from Keilah, and they went wherever they could go. When it was reported to Saul that David had escaped from Keilah, he gave up the pursuit. David stayed in the wilderness in the strongholds, and remained in the hill country in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul searched for him every day, but God did not hand him over to him. Now David saw that Saul had come out to seek his life, while David was in the wilderness of Ziph at Horesh. And Jonathan, Saul's son, set out and went to David at Horesh, and encouraged him in God. He said to him, "Do not be afraid, because the hand of Saul my father will not find you, and you will be king over Israel, and I will be second in command to you. And Saul my father knows that as well." So the two of them made a covenant before the Lord, and David stayed at Horesh, while Jonathan went to his house. Then Ziphites came up to Saul at Gibeah, saying, "Is David not keeping himself hidden with us in the strongholds at Horesh, on the hill of Hachilah, which is south of Jeshimon? Now then, O king, come down, since you fully desire to do so, and our part shall be to hand him over to the king." Saul said, "May you be blessed of the Lord, since you have had compassion on me. Go now, be more persistent, and investigate and see his place where he is hiding, and who has seen him there. For I am told that he is very cunning. So look and learn about all the hiding places where he keeps himself hidden, and return to me with certainty, and I will go with you, and if he is in the land, I will search him out among all the thousands of Judah." So they set out and went to Ziph, ahead of Saul. Now David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the Arabah, to the south of Jeshimon. When Saul and his men went to seek him, they informed David, and he came down to the rock and stayed in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard about it, he pursued David in the wilderness of Maon. Saul went on one side of the mountain, and David and his men on the other side of the mountain. And David was hurrying to get away from Saul, while Saul and his men were surrounding David and his men to apprehend them. But a messenger came to Saul, saying, "Hurry and come, for the Philistines have launched an attack against the land." So Saul returned from pursuing David and went to confront the Philistines. Therefore they called that place the Rock of Division. And David went up from there and stayed in the strongholds of En-gedi. Chapter 24. Now when Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, it was reported to him, saying, "Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi." Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men from all Israel and went to search for David and his men in front of the rocks of the mountain goats. And he came to the sheepfolds on the way, where there was a cave. And Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were sitting in the inner recesses of the cave. Then David's men said to him, "Behold, this is the day of which the Lord said to you, Behold, I am about to hand your enemy over to you, and you shall do to him as it seems good to you." Then David got up and cut off the edge of Saul's robe secretly. But it came about afterward that David's conscience bothered him, because he had cut off the edge of Saul's robe. So he said to his men, "Far be it from me, because of the Lord, that I would do this thing to my Lord, the Lord's anointed, to reach out with my hand against him, since he is the Lord's anointed." And David rebuked his men with these words, and did not allow them to rise up against Saul. And Saul got up, left the cave, and went on his way. Afterward, however, David got up and went out of the cave, and called after Saul, saying, "My lord the king." And when Saul looked behind him, David bowed with his face to the ground and prostrated himself. And David said to Saul, "Why do you listen to the words of men who say, Behold, David is seeking to harm you? Behold, this day your eyes have seen that the Lord had handed you over to me today in the cave, and someone said to kill you. But I spared you. And I said, I will not reach out with my hand against my Lord, because he is the Lord's anointed. So, my father, look. Indeed, look at the edge of your robe in my hand. For by the fact that I cut off the edge of your robe, but did not kill you, know and understand that there is no evil or rebellion in my hands, and I have not sinned against you, though you are lying in wait for my life to take it. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord take vengeance on you for me. But my hand shall not be against you. As the proverb of the ancients says, out of the wicked comes wickedness, but my hand shall not be against you. After whom has the king of Israel gone out? Whom are you pursuing? A dead dog? A single flea? May the Lord therefore be judge and decide between you and me. and may he see and plead my cause, and save me from your hand." When David had finished speaking these words to Saul, Saul said, "Is this your voice, my son David?" Then Saul raised his voice and wept. And he said to David, "You are more righteous than I, for you have dealt well with me, while I have dealt maliciously with you. You have declared today that you have done good to me, that the Lord handed me over to you, and yet you did not kill me. Though if a man finds his enemy, will he let him go away unharmed? May the Lord therefore reward you with good in return for what you have done to me this day. Now behold, I know that you will certainly be king, and that the kingdom of Israel will be established in your hand. So now swear to me by the Lord that you will not cut off my descendants after me, and that you will not eliminate my name from my father's household." And David swore an oath to Saul. Then Saul went to his home, but David and his men went up to the stronghold. Chapter 25. Then Samuel died, and all Israel assembled and mourned for him, and they buried him at his house in Ramah. And David set out and went down to the wilderness of Paran. Now there was a man in Maon whose business was in Carmel, and the man was very rich, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. And it came about while he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the man's name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. And the woman was intelligent and beautiful in appearance. But the man was harsh and evil in his dealings, and he was a Calebite, that David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep. So David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, "Go up to Carmel and visit Nabal, and greet him in my name, and this is what you shall say: Have a long life, peace to you, and peace to your house, and peace to all that you have. Now then, I have heard that you have shearers. Now your shepherds have been with us. We have not harmed them, nor has anything of theirs gone missing all the days they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we have come on a festive day. Please give whatever you find at hand to your servants and to your son David." When David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal in accordance with all these words in David's name. Then they waited. But Nabal answered David's servants and said, "Who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants today who are each breaking away from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my meat that I have slaughtered for my shearers and give it to men whose origin I do not know?" So David's young men made their way back and returned. And they came and informed him in accordance with all these words. Then David said to his men, "Each of you strap on his sword." So each man strapped on his sword, and David also strapped on his sword. And about 400 men went up behind David, while 200 stayed with the baggage. Now one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, "Behold, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, and he spoke to them in anger. Yet the men were very good to us, and we were not harmed, nor did anything go missing as long as we went with them, while we were in the fields. They were a wall to us, both by night and by day, all the time we were with them tending the sheep. Now then, be aware and consider what you should do, because harm is plotted against our master and against all his household, and he is such a worthless man that no one can speak to him." Then Abigail hurried and took 200 loaves of bread and 2 jugs of wine and 5 sheep already prepared and 5 measures of roasted grain and 100 cakes of raisins and 200 cakes of figs, and she loaded them on donkeys. Then she said to her young men, "Go on ahead of me. Behold, I am coming after you." But she did not tell her husband Nabal. And it happened, as she was riding on her donkey and coming down by the hidden part of the mountain, that, behold, David and his men were coming down toward her. So she met them. Now David had said, "It is certainly for nothing that I have guarded everything that this man has in the wilderness, so that nothing has gone missing of all that belonged to him. For he has returned me evil for good. May God do so to the enemies of David, and more so, if by morning I leave alive as much as one male of any who belong to him." When Abigail saw David, she hurried and dismounted from her donkey, and fell on her face in front of David, and bowed herself to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, "On me alone, my lord, be the blame, and please let your slave speak to you, and listen to the words of your slave. Please do not let my lord pay attention to this worthless man Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and stupidity is with him. But I, your slave, did not see the young men of my lord whom you sent. Now then, my lord, as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, since the Lord has restrained you from shedding blood and from avenging yourself by your own hand, now then may your enemies and those who seek evil against my lord be like Nabal. And now let this gift, which your servant has brought to my lord, be given to the young men who accompany my lord. Please forgive the offense of your slave. For the Lord will certainly make for my lord an enduring house, because my lord is fighting the battles of the Lord, and evil will not be found in you all your days. Should anyone rise up to pursue you and to seek your life, then the life of my lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living with the Lord your God. But the lives of your enemies he will sling out as from the hollow of a sling. And when the Lord does for my lord, in accordance with all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and appoints you ruler over Israel, this will not become an obstacle to you, or a troubled heart to my lord, both by having shed blood without cause, and by my lord's having avenged himself. When the Lord deals well with my lord, then remember your slave." Then David said to Abigail, "Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, who sent you this day to meet me, and blessed be your discernment, and blessed be you, who have kept me this day from bloodshed, and from avenging myself by my own hand. Nevertheless, as the Lord God of Israel lives, who has restrained me from harming you, if you had not come quickly to meet me, there certainly would not have been left to Nabal until the morning light as much as one male." So David accepted from her hand what she had brought him, and said to her, "Go up to your house in peace. See, I have listened to you, and granted your request." Then Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he was having a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was cheerful within him, for he was very drunk. So she did not tell him anything at all until the morning light. But in the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died within him, so that he became like a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, "Blessed be the Lord, who has pleaded the cause of the shame inflicted on me by the hand of Nabal, and has kept back his servant from evil. The Lord has also returned the evil-doing of Nabal on his own head." Then David sent a proposal to Abigail, to take her as his wife. When the servants of David came to Abigail at Carmel, they spoke to her, saying, "David has sent us to you, to take you to him as his wife." And she got up and bowed with her face to the ground, and said, "Behold, your slave is a servant to wash the feet of my Lord's servants." Then Abigail got up quickly and rode on a donkey with her 5 female attendants who accompanied her. And she followed the messengers of David and became his wife. David had also taken Ahinoam of Jezreel, and they both became his wives. But Saul had given his daughter Michal, David's wife, to Paltai, the son of Laish, who was from Galim. Chapter 26. Then the Ziphites came to Saul at Gibeah, saying, "Is David not keeping himself hidden on the hill of Hachilah, which is opposite Jeshimon?" So Saul set out and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, taking with him 3,000 chosen men of Israel to search for David in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul camped on the hill of Hachilah, which is opposite Jeshimon, beside the road, and David was staying in the wilderness. When he saw that Saul had come after him into the wilderness, David sent out spies, and he learned that Saul was definitely coming. David then set out and came to the place where Saul had camped. And David saw the place where Saul lay, and Abner the son of Ner, the commander of his army, and Saul was lying in the circle of the camp, and the people were camped around him. Then David said to Ahimelech the Hittite, and to Abishai the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, saying, "Who will go down with me to Saul in the camp?" And Abishai said, "I will go down with you." So David and Abishai came to the people by night, and behold, Saul lay sleeping inside the circle of the camp with his spear stuck in the ground at his head, and Abner and the people were lying around him. Then Abishai said to David, "Today God has handed your enemy over to you. Now then, please let me pin him with the spear to the ground with one thrust, and I will not do it to him a second time." But David said to Abishai, "Do not kill him. For who can reach out with his hand against the Lord's anointed and remain innocent?" David also said, "As the Lord lives, the Lord certainly will strike him, or his day will come that he dies, or he will go down in battle and perish. The Lord forbid that I would reach out with my hand against the Lord's anointed. But now, please take the spear that is at his head and the jug of water, and let's go." So David took the spear and the jug of water that were at Saul's head, and they left. And no one saw or knew about it, nor did anyone awaken, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord had fallen on them. Then David crossed over to the other side and stood on top of the mountain at a distance with a large area between them. And David called to the people and to Abner the son of Ner, saying, "Will you not answer, Abner?" Then Abner replied, "Who are you who calls to the king?" So David said to Abner, "Are you not a man? And who is like you in Israel? Why then have you not guarded your lord the king? For one of the people came to kill the king your lord. This thing that you have done is not good. As the Lord lives, all of you undoubtedly must die, because you did not guard your lord, the Lord's anointed. And now see where the king's spear is, and the jug of water that was at his head." Then Saul recognized David's voice, and said, "Is this your voice, my son David?" And David said, "It is my voice, my lord the king." He also said, "Why then is my lord pursuing his servant? For what have I done, or what evil is in my hand? Now then, please let my lord the king listen to the words of his servant. If the Lord has incited you against me, may he accept an offering. But if it is people, cursed are they before the Lord, because they have driven me out today, so that I would have no share in the inheritance of the Lord, saying, 'Go, serve other gods.' Now then, do not let my blood fall to the ground far from the presence of the Lord, for the king of Israel has come out to search for a single flea, just as one hunts a partridge in the mountains." Then Saul said, "I have sinned. Return, my son David, for I will not harm you again, since my life was precious in your sight this day. Behold, I have played the fool and have made a very great mistake." David replied, "Behold the spear of the king. Now have one of the young men come over and take it, and the Lord will repay each man for his righteousness and his faithfulness. For the Lord handed you over to me today, but I refused to reach out with my hand against the Lord's anointed. Therefore, behold, just as your life was highly valued in my sight this day, so may my life be highly valued in the sight of the Lord, and may he rescue me from all distress." Then Saul said to David, "Blessed are you, my son David. You will both accomplish much and assuredly prevail." So David went on his way, and Saul returned to his place. Chapter 27. Then David said to himself, "Now I will perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than to safely escape into the land of the Philistines. Then Saul will despair of searching for me any more in all the territory of Israel, and I will escape from his hand." So David set out and went over, he and the 600 men who were with him, to Achish, the son of Maach, king of Gath. And David lived with Achish in Gath, he and his men, each with his own household. David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the Carmelitess, Nabal's widow. Now it was reported to Saul that David had fled to Gath, so he no longer searched for him. Then David said to Achish, "If now I have found favor in your sight, have them give me a place in one of the cities in the country, so that I may live there. For why should your servant live in the royal city with you?" So Achish gave him Ziklag that day. Therefore Ziklag has belonged to the kings of Judah to this day. The number of days that David lived in the country of the Philistines was 1 year and 4 months. Now David and his men went up and attacked the Geshurites, the Girzites, and the Amalekites, for they were the inhabitants of the land from ancient times, as you come to Shur, even as far as the land of Egypt. David attacked the land and did not leave a man or a woman alive, and he took the sheep, the cattle, the donkeys, the camels, and the clothing. Then he returned and came to Achish. Now Achish said, "Where did you carry out an attack today?" And David said, "Against the Negev of Judah, against the Negev of the Jerahmeelites, and against the Negev of the Kenites." And David did not leave a man or a woman alive to bring to Gath, saying, "Otherwise they will tell about us, saying, 'This is what David has done,' and this has been his practice all the time that he has lived in the country of the Philistines." So Achish believed David, saying, "He has undoubtedly made himself repulsive among his people Israel. Therefore he will become my servant forever." Chapter 28. Now it came about in those days that the Philistines gathered their armed camps for war, to fight against Israel. And Achish said to David, "Know for certain that you will go out with me in the camp, you and your men." David said to Achish, "Very well, you will learn what your servant can do." So Achish said to David, "Then I will assuredly make you my bodyguard for life." Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had mourned him and buried him in Ramah, his own city. And Saul had removed the mediums and spiritists from the land. So the Philistines assembled and came and camped in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together, and they camped in Gilboa. When Saul saw the camp of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. So Saul inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him, either in dreams, or by the Urim, or by the prophets. Then Saul said to his servants, "Find for me a woman who is a medium, so that I may go to her and inquire of her." And his servants said to him, "Behold, There is a woman who is a medium at Endor." Then Saul disguised himself by putting on different clothes, and went, he and 2 men with him. And they came to the woman by night, and he said, "Consult the Spirit for me, please, and bring up for me the one whom I shall name for you." But the woman said to him, "Behold, you know what Saul has done, that he has eliminated the mediums and spiritists from the land. Why are you then setting a trap for my life to bring about my death?" So Saul swore an oath to her by the Lord, saying, "As the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing." Then the woman said, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" And he said, "Bring up Samuel for me." When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice, and the woman spoke to Saul, saying, "Why have you deceived me? For you are Saul." But the king said to her, "Do not be afraid. But what do you see?" And the woman said to Saul, "I see a divine being coming up from the earth." He said to her, "How does he appear?" And she said, "An old man is coming up, and he is wrapped in a robe." Then Saul knew that it was Samuel, and he bowed with his face to the ground and paid homage. And Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" Saul replied, "I am very distressed, for the Philistines are waging war against me, and God has abandoned me and no longer answers me, either through prophets or in dreams. Therefore I have called you, so that you may let me know what I should do." Samuel said, "But why ask me, since the Lord has abandoned you and has become your enemy? And the Lord has done just as he spoke through me, for the Lord has torn the kingdom from your hand and given it to your neighbor, to David. Just as you did not obey the Lord and did not execute his fierce wrath on Amalek, so the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Furthermore, the Lord will also hand Israel along with you over to the Philistines. So tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. Indeed, the Lord will hand the army of Israel over to the Philistines." Then Saul immediately fell full length to the ground and was very afraid because of Samuel's words. There was no strength in him either, because he had eaten no food all day and all night. The woman came to Saul and saw that he was utterly horrified, and she said to him, "Behold, your servant has obeyed you, and I have taken my life in my hand and have listened to your words which you spoke to me. So now you too, please listen to the voice of your servant, and let me serve you a piece of bread, and eat it, so that you will have strength when you go on your way." But he refused and said, "I will not eat." However, his servants together with the woman urged him, and he listened to them. So he got up from the ground and sat on the bed. Now the woman had a fattened calf in the house, and she quickly slaughtered it. Then she took flour, kneaded it, and baked unleavened bread from it. She then served it to Saul and his servants, and they ate. Then they got up and left that night. Chapter 29. Now the Philistines gathered together all their armies to Aphek, while the Israelites were camping by the spring which is in Jezreel. And the governors of the Philistines were proceeding on, leading hundreds and thousands, and David and his men were proceeding in the back with Achish. Then the commanders of the Philistines said, "What are these Hebrews doing here?" And Achish said to the commanders of the Philistines, "Is this not David, the servant of Saul, the king of Israel, who has been with me these days, or rather these years, and I have found nothing at all suspicious in him, since the day he deserted to me to this day?" But the commanders of the Philistines were angry with him. And the commanders of the Philistines said to him, "Make the man go back, so that he will return to his place where you have assigned him, and do not let him go down to battle with us, or in the battle he may become an adversary to us." For how could this man find favor with his Lord? Would it not be with the heads of these men? Is this not David, of whom they sing in the dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s? Then Achish called David and said to him, As the Lord lives, you have indeed been honest, and your going out and your coming in with me in the army are pleasing in my sight. For I have not found evil in you since the day of your coming to me to this day. Nevertheless, you are not pleasing in the sight of the governors. Now then, return and go in peace, so that you will not do anything wrong in the sight of the governors of the Philistines. However, David said to Achish, But what have I done? And what have you found in your servant since the day that I came before you to this day, that I cannot go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king? But Achish replied to David, I know that you are pleasing in my sight, like an angel of God. Nevertheless, the commanders of the Philistines have said, He must not go up with us into the battle. Now then, rise early in the morning with the servants of your Lord who have come with you, and as soon as you have risen early in the morning and have light, leave. So David got up early, he and his men, to leave in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines. And the Philistines went up to Jezreel. Chapter 30. Then it happened, when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had carried out an attack on the Negev and on Ziklag, and had overthrown Ziklag and burned it with fire. And they took captive the women and all who were in it, from the small to the great, without killing anyone, and drove them off and went their way. When David and his men came to the city, behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him raised their voices and wept, until there was no strength in them to weep. Now David's 2 wives had been taken captive, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. Also David was in great distress, because the people spoke of stoning him, for all the people were embittered, each one because of his sons and his daughters. But David felt strengthened in the Lord his God. Then David said to Abiathar the priest, the son of Ahimelech, Please bring me the ephod. So Abiathar brought the ephod to David. And David inquired of the Lord, saying, Shall I pursue this band of raiders? Will I overtake them? And he said to him, Pursue, for you will certainly overtake them, and you will certainly rescue everyone. So David left, he and the 600 men who were with him, and they came to the brook Besor, where some who were left behind stayed. But David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 who were too exhausted to cross the brook Besor stayed behind. Now they found an Egyptian in the field, and brought him to David, and gave him bread, and he ate. And they provided him water to drink. They also gave him a slice of fig cake, and 2 cakes of raisins, and he ate. Then his spirit revived, for he had not eaten bread or drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. Then David said to him, To whom do you belong, and where are you from? And he said, I am a young man of Egypt, a servant of an Amalekite, and my master abandoned me when I became sick 3 days ago. We carried out an attack on the Negev of the Kerethites, and on that which belongs to Judah, and on the Negev of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire. Then David said to him, Will you bring me down to this band of raiders? And he said, Swear to me by God that you will not kill me or hand me over to my master, and I will bring you down to this band. Now when he had brought him down, behold, they were dispersed over all the land, eating and drinking and celebrating because of all the great plunder that they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Judah. And David slaughtered them from the twilight until the evening of the next day. And not a man of them escaped, except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. So David recovered all that the Amalekites had taken, and rescued his 2 wives. And nothing of theirs was missing, whether small or great, sons or daughters, plunder, or anything that they had taken for themselves. David brought it all back. So David had captured all the sheep and the cattle which the people drove ahead of the other livestock, and they said, "This is David's plunder." When David came to the 200 men, who were too exhausted to follow David and had been left behind at the brook Besor, and they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with him, then David approached the people and greeted them. Then all the wicked and worthless men among those who went with David said, "Since they did not go with us, we will not give them any of the spoils that we have recovered, except to every man his wife and his children, so that they may lead them away and leave." But David said, "You must not do so, my brothers, with what the Lord has given us, for he has protected us and handed over to us the band of raiders that came against us. And who will listen to you in this matter? For as is the share of the one who goes down into the battle, so shall be the share of the one who stays by the baggage. They shall share alike." So it has been from that day forward that he made it a statute and an ordinance for Israel to this day. Now when David came to Ziklag, he sent some of the spoils to the elders of Judah, to his friends, saying, "Behold, a gift for you from the spoils of the enemies of the Lord, to those who were in Bethel, to those who were in Ramoth of the Negeb, to those who were in Jeter, to those who were in Aroer, to those who were in Siphmoth, to those who were in Eshtemoa, to those who were in Rachel, to those who were in the cities of the Jerahmeelites, to those who were in the cities of the Kenites, to those who were in Hormah, to those who were in Boration, to those who were in Athach, to those who were in Hebron, and to all the places where David himself and his men walked." Chapter 31. Now the Philistines were fighting against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from the Philistines, but fell fatally wounded on Mount Gilboa. And the Philistines also overtook Saul and his sons. And the Philistines killed Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, the sons of Saul. The battle went heavily against Saul, and the archers found him, and he was gravely wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and pierce me through with it. Otherwise these uncircumcised Philistines will come and pierce me through and abuse me." But his armor-bearer was unwilling, because he was very fearful. So Saul took his sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell on his sword and died with him. So Saul died with his 3 sons, his armor-bearer, and all his men on that day together. Now when the people of Israel, who were on the other side of the valley, with those who were beyond the Jordan, saw that the men of Israel had fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned the cities and fled. Then the Philistines came and settled in them. It came about on the next day, when the Philistines came to strip those killed, that they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa. They cut off his head and stripped off his weapons and sent them throughout the land of the Philistines, to bring the good news to the house of their idols and to the people. They put his weapons in the temple of Ashtaroth, and they nailed his body to the wall of Bethshan. Now when the inhabitants of Jabesh-Gilead heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men got up and walked all night, and they took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Bethshan. And they came to Jabesh and burned them there. And they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree in Jabesh. and fasted for 7 days.